So today's question in this seminar is, how does media and news coverage affect political campaigns and the way people think and vote? The first reading, excuse my pronunciation, by Schoufflet and Tewsbury talks about the three ways in that the media does this, and that is by agenda setting, framing, and priming. So agenda setting essentially focuses on airtime and coverage. So how accessible is this issue that is being shown? How often do you see it? The second one is framing. How is this issue presented? How is it positioned? What is the take? What is the angle? And thirdly, which I find the most fascinating, which in the reading it says in is an extension of agenda setting, is priming, which is how do we view our leaders as competent based on how they deal with specific issues. So do we look at leaders for how they deal with housing, how they deal with border enforcement? What is the issue? That is how you're being primed to view a leader in relation to a certain issue. You're judging their competency and how good they are on it. The second reading takes these three things that are talked about and it implements it into how the tabloids are biased. It comes from a political correspondent who's been working in that field for 9 years, and it's really well written and very amusing, especially when they talk about specific tabloids and how they lean towards Labour or how they lean towards conservatives. So for example, there's a sentence in the reading where they say that the Daily Mail would praise Donald Duck for being for having creative rhetoric, whereas if they had Mother Teresa, they would say she was a careerist, or things like that. And it's essentially showing how the media, which is something that is supposed to be objective, is biased. It talks about the different strategies that Labour and Conservative have. So it says Conservative tends to attack, whereas Labour usually tends to defend. And it's said that there is a 2-point swing for the Sun, for those who read that tabloid, because it's conservative, a 2-point swing towards the conservative side, whereas those who read the Mirror are typically more politically conscious. So it also depends on the type of reader, but for the most part it illustrates how the media is biased towards a certain party and how journalists are incentivized to do so, because if you know that someone higher up prefers this party, if you write a story with headlines like socialist or whatever, you're incentivized to do so because you get a bigger paycheck, there are more connections, you can climb up your career ladder much faster. And we can apply these two readings and see how important image is in politics and affecting how people think and vote. When we look at Brexit, right, that was an issue, agenda setting. It had a lot of coverage, it was in the media a lot. Framing, how was it framed? It became an issue of immigration. It became an issue of what it meant to be British, not really about Brexit. And that was done so that it would unify a lot of people, and essentially their campaign won, right? Even if you look at the picture of like Nigel Farage in front of all these people behind a border, and it's talking about we and our, this use of collective language to unify people. So that's the framing. And then the third is the priming. We can see we're judging the politicians' ability to keep our country safe, to secure us, to keep us safe away from those people. So you can see the priming. And this leads me to conclude with my remarks, which is that the media is really impactful in how an election, if an election is won, because it does affect how people think and vote, because people are products of what they consume, unless they're very critical and they're politically engaged and they're constantly criticizing everything they consume, but that is a lot of effort and people are a bit lazy. So in the end, I would like to say that politics is as much about image as it is about policy.